Best friend proposed me for no reason in public. I laughed at him thinking it's a joke and now he is gone forever. Frankly, I'm still in shock that this happened, so this might be all over the place. Bear with me. All fake names etc. etc. Jordan and I met in university 2 years ago. We both started at the same time, and because of our ages we were both considered mature students. So we quickly became firm friends as we shared a dorm, and we'd joke around together about us being old enough to be considered mature in our early 20s. We weren't on the same course, but given we lived together, we would hang out pretty much all the time whenever we didn't have a lecture. We joined a bunch of societies together, went drinking every weekend together, etc. etc. It was a pretty sweet gig because it meant we were at least never alone. Obviously we made other friends, both alone and together, but we were always each other's number one at the end of the day. At the moment we're on spring holidays for Easter. And while we haven't hung out constantly, we decided to make plans to visit each other's hometowns, because we're from very starkly different places. Today, we went to mine. Mine is a big city central. This morning we went there and were wandering down the streets, doing some sightseeing, because he's never been. There's typically a lot of street sellers here, trying to sell you everything from hot dogs to fluffy Pokemon hats. I decided I wanted to get a caricature done. I've never had one and I thought it would be funny to get and hang over my bed when we got back for term. I asked Jordan if he wanted to get in and he refused. No worries, so I sat down to get it done. They don't take very long, 5/10-ish minutes, so I stayed looked straight forward at the artist the entire time. He finished the caricature, I loved it. So obviously I turned to show it properly to Jordan. When I turn though I literally don't even know what to say. He's down on one knee holding up a ring box. I don't even really know what he said, if he did the whole proposal speech thing, because I was so confused, I was barely paying attention. Remember again, this is a super busy tourist city, so this has drawn a mini crowd now, coming over to cheer us on. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. To be honest, I thought this was some kind of odd prank type thing. We never have been prankster types or whatever, but I couldn't come up with a reasonable explanation. So I just laughed and laughed and laughed. Until I looked at Jordan and he looked genuinely heartbroken. So obviously I asked him something along the lines of, "You are not being serious?" This is the only thing I remember him saying. He shut the box, stood up, shrugged and said, "I guess not anymore," and walked off. This left me standing pretty awkwardly in this gathered crowd of people, a lot of who were giving me dirty looks, which made me incredibly uncomfortable. The plan was to meet back up a hotel that we had booked rooms next door to one another. So I figured that's where he's going and head back that way. But he's not there. So I wait, and he still doesn't return. I text him out of concern. This was at 1:15 p.m. It's currently 6:20 p.m. as I'm writing this, just asking if he's okay. He responds with a long message back, which I would post, because it's an odd read, but I won't out of respect for his privacy, in which he basically accuses me of leading him on, asking why I didn't break up with him sooner, saying I had publicly humiliated him and that he thought I loved him the same way and that he felt our relationship was strong enough to consider taking the next step. Now this is completely out of left field. I literally have got no idea where in the world he's got this idea from. The closest we've ever physically been is a hug, hello and goodbye. I've never even jokingly flirted with him, for exactly this reason. I've had too many friendships collapse because they can't tell the difference between serious, interesting and joking banter in friendships, so I've been extra careful to not. We've never kissed, never been on a date, never had sex. I do not find him physically attractive and I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with him. I don't understand where on earth he's got this idea that we are. This isn't something he's ever brought up before this and I'm genuinely bewildered. He hasn't returned to the hotel yet. I periodically knock to check, and I've been listening out for him walking up the hallway or anything. Nothing. Update 1: Jordan did in fact not come back to the hotel. I stayed up until 1 a.m. before falling asleep and he didn't return. When I woke up the next day, the hotel staff let me know he had checked himself out at about 6 a.m. I did end up responding to his big long text. I took everyone's advice and told him that I was sorry it didn't go as he had expected, but that I wasn't sure where he'd got the impression we were together. I said I'd be happy to sit and have a discussion about it all so we could make sure we're on the same page. He was not happy about this at all. And he again went off which a bunch of the same type of thing he'd said in his first message. It didn't really seem to be going through his head at all. Even in these new texts he kept referring to this all as me breaking up with him, despite me explicitly telling him we are not and never have. Again, all his messages were very clear and coherent, even if what he was saying was not based in reality at all. He wasn't sending paragraphs, just sentences in really quick succession, which was blowing my phone up. He told me he didn't want to meet up with me to talk because I had ripped out his heart and crushed it in public. I did ask him for specific instances he could recall between us that made him think we were dating, but he completely ignored the question and just kept going on and on about how hurt he was that I was breaking up with him and how he felt his world was ending. He said he loved me more than anything and had felt so confident that I had too, which is why he felt so certain about proposing to move our relationship along. Eventually, to be honest, I grew pretty tired of the conversation and stopped responding, because it was just going around and around in circles. Me asking where he got this idea, him ignoring this and telling me how hurt he is I'm breaking up with him over this, etc. etc. He went on and on saying he thought it would be a ring I like, because it was my favorite gem, ruby, instead of diamond. It's got me wondering how much he actually spent on this damn thing. I didn't look very clearly at the ring, so I couldn't tell if it was something super expensive or not, and that he had been working up the courage to do so for a while and figured doing it when I was at home would make it more special. For a while, he was just talking to himself in my texts, because I wasn't responding anymore. When I checked back about 20 minutes later, I had something like 60 messages from him. Granted, they were all one sentences. At the very end he apologized and told me that it didn't matter anyway because I wouldn't see him around anymore. Obviously I was concerned, so I asked for clarification. He said that he was going to drop out of university and go back home because he couldn't deal with the shame. That's where our conversation ended. I didn't really know what to respond to that. As it stands now, I don't really know where Jordan is. I didn't ask him, which is my bad. I'm not sure when we will talk again. I'm sorry this is quite a boring update. Unfortunately, I can't excite everyone with and then he turned up at my door, and then he sent me flowers, or whatever. It feels a lot is unanswered. I still don't know where he got the idea we were saying from, he hasn't explained that. Update 2. So adding on, a lot of people said I should ask our mutual friends if he's ever bought this up before, ever suggested we were dating, etc. All of the people I've asked, granted it was only 5, said that they've not got a clue and he's never mentioned it before now. I don't know then if this is something that he's newly started thinking, if it's been something long term, etc. Either way, in addition I've also screenshotted all of his texts, etc., just in case. Reading back on them not with a slightly less confused mindset, they read pretty manic. Still haven't heard back from his mum just yet. Update 3. Jordan's mum did message me back on Facebook, that same day. We had a chat for a little while. She's a really nice lady. She agreed though that this was incredibly out of character for Jordan, and in fact, she mentioned a few other things that she had noticed as being off about him in the last few weeks. Nothing crazy, just things here and there she'd never known him to do or say. I spoke with her at length about Jordan's mental health and potential psychosis, and she told me that there is a history of mental illness on his dad's side, including a paternal uncle's suicide, but that she doesn't know all that much about it because they've not spoken to one another in quite a long while. Our conversation lasted about an hour. I showed her Jordan's texts, etc., and she agreed that they sounded quite manic, regardless of how coherent they were. A lot of people also asked if he had told our mutual friends and acquaintances that we were dating. I did message our mutual friends, our dorm mates, etc., and they all basically said they've got no idea what I'm talking about. So it seems he's just been sort of having these thoughts by himself without expressing them? I don't know how to get in contact with his close friends that we don't share, so I can't really ask them. Anyway, for a few days, that was it. Until yesterday evening anyway, which is where the big and positive depending on how you see it update comes. I got word from Jordan's mum that he had been detained under Section 13(6) by the police. For anyone not from the UK or who, like me, doesn't know what that is, from what I can tell it basically means he was suffering from an obvious mental health disorder in public, with their behavior concerning enough that they're a danger to themselves or to others, and police think they need immediate and urgent care. What I know from here is pretty minimal. I'm not sure where he was taken to, but his mum said that he would be there for the day while they perform a mental health assessment, so I assume that's what they're doing today. She said that essentially he had been out in the streets yelling about things, she didn't specify what, and intimidating other people on the street. He was throwing things around and generally just causing a lot of issue. Police got called because people thought that he was drunk. They established he wasn't, not sure if that's just from how he was acting, breathalyzer, etc. I honestly don't really know how it works, and that's all I know. His mum and I again had a chat and we sort of assumed that mental health, psychosis is likely right. The rejection of the proposal probably set him into a spiral of getting worse in the last few days, bringing us to where we are right now. I do feel pretty awful about that. I'm doing my best not to blame myself, but it's hard not to feel like I caused it. Either way, he is currently with police, mental health professionals, etc., likely being assessed. I don't know how the system works, so I'm not sure what will happen beyond this point. If someone with more knowledge wants to chime in, please do. I'm hopeful though that this will mean Jordan will be able to get some help for whatever it is he is currently dealing with. My hope is therefore I won't need to update again, and this can end here. I have yet to speak to the university about the situation just yet. Not really sure how to, if I should approach that, so I'm leaving it be for now. This has been a whole lot of emotions. I really appreciate the help of everyone on my last 2 posts. Again, I won't update again now unless something major happens, but I highly doubt I will learn much more. If he gets diagnosed with anything, I'll see if I can find out what from his mum and I'll add it as a small update to this post, though some form of psychosis is definitely looking most likely.